thank you for joining today. Today we have Ray Peloso, the CEO of Katabat. Ray, thank you so much for joining today and taking the time to speak. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, of how you got into this, and a little bit about your company as well?
Great. Well, thank you for taking the time to interview me, Brianna. I was previously a buyer of the products of Katabat before joining the company. And so I was fortunate enough to be in lending. I was working at Royal Bank of Scotland during the Great Financial Recession, and we were looking for some great technology to solve some fairly complicated loan modification challenges when we were in the financial recession. And so I got to know the company and was invited to join the company back in 2014. And in 2015, I became CEO.
Wow. So did you join as a CEO directly, or you joined in a different position and then rose to the power?
I did not. So I joined as the Chief Operating Officer and Head of Product. And so for me, I'd spent 20 plus years in lending and consumer lending. And so I'd been a buyer of technology and wanted to make the leap over to the technology side. And so I was lucky enough to be able to join Katabat at the time.
That's fantastic. So what are some of the interesting projects you're currently involved with?
We have a number of interesting projects. And so we have always have an active client-facing set of work. And one of the ways we tend to build and grow our product set is through client feedback. And so I could go into dozens and dozens of specific client-related initiatives that really drive our product roadmap. But I think probably a more interesting way to answer your question directly is we're investing pretty heavily in some technologies and capabilities on our own that we think the market is looking for and wants to see from us. And in particular, we're well into a multi-year project to build out a machine learning analytic capability that we think, when coupled with our existing platform, is going to create a really powerful ability for our clients to drive automated, intelligent process and outcomes for their clients.
So let's dig a little deep into the machine learning technology.
Sure.
You just mentioned and used in the lending products that you have. So is this machine learning used to, say, analyze the credit ratings of the customers to serve the underserved, or is it more used in terms of automating certain types of processes to make the loan processing life cycle a bit shorter?
Great. Yeah. So there's a variety of ways a client could use machine learning. And one way to use it is to drive process automation, to reduce cost and improve the customer experience, all of which are good things. The specific way that we are building out our machine learning capability is almost like a marketing response engine. So if our clients want to go out to a set of customers and interest them in an offer and see if they respond, the traditional way of doing it is to have an analyst build a response model, then tune it, and then tweak it over time, all of which remain very useful activities. The machine learning work that we've taken on at this stage is to say, look, you can automate that. You can have a pool of clients or customers, and you can design different offers and creatives and treatment strategies. And rather than having a human being sort out all of those different combinations, we can give you this machine learning capability that will automatically, over time, continuously tune and refine and optimize. And so you've got a suite of offers, you've got a set of customers, you're trying to match up best offer to best customer at a point in time. And the models that we're building and the algorithms that we're building will allow our clients to actually do that without human intervention. So it's a marketing-oriented, response-oriented capability.
So I assume you must be recalibrating it to the shifting market dynamics and the consumer spending patterns on a regular basis and retrain these machines, right?
Well, the beauty of a well-built machine learning platform, so the broad answer is yes, first of all, let me get that out. But the beauty of a well-built machine learning algorithm and platform is that it self-tunes in a way that allows for a much less human intervention. So we will periodically tune the algorithms, but the beauty of the model, it's almost like a closed loop, is all the data is coming in, customers are buying and using. That data is feeding into the model to allow it to continuously tune and refine. In industry jargon, most models historically have been static in that you build a model, you publish it, and then 6 months later, 9 months later, you go back in and tune it. The beauty of machine learning is it continuously tunes, so your requirement to be refining it is substantially less.
That's fantastic. Could you tell us what, according to you, are the top five trends in fintech and banking?
Of course. Well, number one, which we've just been chatting about, is artificial intelligence, which is a very broad description and has many, many, many different applications underneath it. It's absolutely transforming fintech. There are many advantages, I would say, to a new fintech by not having legacy operating platforms and operating environments, because they can really design and take advantage of artificial intelligence tools to create a better customer experience. So we see AI broadly as a major driver that's driving fintech right now. I think in fintech, to the extent that there's lending, which is a big portion of fintech, but not the entirety of it, we see tremendous innovation out there and tremendously interesting companies all in some form of lending. And we see, as many see, kind of a late cycle right now and a recession coming. And so it will be interesting if and when the recession hits, kind of how that separates winners and losers. You know, the fintechs that have fortified themselves against downturn, I think, will really come out winners, as often happens in a recession environment. So thirdly, sorry, just checking on my notes here. Blockchain is probably not going to have major market impact over the next 3 years. However, in fintech, however, those that aren't preparing for blockchain, I think in a 5 to 7 year window would be probably at a position of risk. And so we're already thinking about ways that we can bring blockchain into our service offerings. Mm-hmm. And the last point I'll make is we think cyber is massively important, cybersecurity, I should say. So you may have noticed just to the Department of Homeland Security has actually created a whole new entity to combat cyber security and cyber terrorism. And so the idea of security, I think, is one of the top issues facing everybody that's in the consumer business, where you're trying to protect non-public private information. Sorry about that.
Especially in these times when, you know, the hackers have access to military grade equipment to go and hack your systems and, you know, practice all those threats. And so I agree with you. Cybersecurity is
it is, the threats out there, without being too alarmist, to security of a franchise and a household and an individual have never been greater. And so we see, you know, breaches that can really materially impact organization. I mean, from our perspective, we invest very heavily in our security controls because we'd be out of business if we lost the confidence of our client.
Yeah, definitely. So if you were to give, you know, one takeaway for other CEOs in either in fintech or banking or any other industry, what would that be to successfully lead the company?
Gosh, you know, there are so many things you could say or points you could make. From our perspective, we're a small enough company that we're nimble, and growing our business really matters. We can't coast at all. We need to be hungry. So I'm often fond of a Winston Churchill quote: "Never, never, never give up." I don't quite say it with he does, but there's a resilience and a grit and a tenacity, I think, required that most entrepreneurs, most sort of smaller company owners would probably agree to. That some days are great, you hit home runs and you have fantastic experiences. Some days you sort of struggle to get through the day because you've been hit by out of left field, something you didn't expect. But that's actually part of the great joy. But I think to be in a fintech smaller startup, you need to have a level of resilience that allows you to get through both the good times and the tough times.
Yeah, definitely. And so what are the top conferences that you're attending for the rest of the year that maybe could be useful for the audience to also know?
Yeah. So we sell, just by way of background, we sell our software primarily to lenders globally. And so our domain of conferences that we generally attend is somewhat bounded by lending of some sort. So Lendit obviously is a key conference for us every year. There's versions of Lendit internationally in Europe and abroad. There are, within banking sector, there are credit conferences. And we go to them. We don't go in a big splashy advertising way. We actually go more to just network and be plugged in to find out and hear and listen to what the key trends are. Because as you can imagine, there are, you know, literally thousands of conferences you can go to.
Oh yeah, definitely. Sometimes, you know, you just want to attend and know what's going on in the market and, you know,
right. Right.
So, to wrap this up, Ray, I'd like to know what's your favorite life lesson quote. I know you said never give it up for as a tip for the CEOs, but one favorite life lesson quote that you go by on your daily basis.
Yeah, so I'm a big believer when you tie it all together. So kind of there's a theme of mine, a life lesson of mine around keep it simple and what I call the golden rules. So I grew up with a framework of you work hard to do your best. There's sort of an American fictional character called Horatio Alger. And if you do your best and you tell the truth and you work hard and you do right by people and you pay it forward, those sound like really simple concepts, but actually there's enough silliness in the world that my life lesson and my lesson that I tend to pass on to people is do right by others, treat people well, do your best, and pay it forward. And actually over medium to long-term cycles, it actually a lot of good things come out of that.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure. It's been really insightful talking to you, learning about the trends in the industry. Thank you very much for joining today.
Thank you, Brianna. Have a good day.
Right, you too.